Hi guys, welcome to the Lee Valley and Engage. I'm Stu, and we're going to do a little bit of a different video this time. It's not going to be a review as such, it's going to be just a bit of a kit building session. And the kit that we've chosen is this kit here. And this is the kit from the Engage Society. This is the LNER van twin pack. And it can, as it says here, contains all the parts and plastic chassis and wheels to complete 2 wagons. This is kit number 67. There are quite a few kits from the Engage Society. Highly recommend them. I've built quite a few of them, and yeah, they're really good. They also do a few ready-to-run vehicles, and also a ready-to-run locomotive as well. These are only available to Engage Society members, and I've been an Engage Society member for quite a while. Yeah, quite a few years. It's been really useful. The kits are really useful and really good and fun to build as well. And which is one of the things I'm going to try and show you in this video. This not just comes with the actual kit itself. So this is kind of what it looks like. A nice little package, taped up envelope with the chassis, all the parts of the kit, and the instructions as well. It also comes with a separate transfers, which are for the LNER vehicles, which you can see here, and information on how to put those transfers on as well. We won't be using the transfers in this video because they're a bit more difficult to put on, and I won't be painting the actual wagon. I'm literally just going to be assembling the kit, not painting it. That will be for a different time. Just a general way of showing you these kits, and a good way to improve your modelling. And plus, also the fact is that I also like to point out these aren't sponsored, by the way, but these are really cheap as well. So this cost me around about, just for the actual wagons themselves, is about £10, maybe a bit more than that. Which, when you think about it, with modern ready-to-run vehicles, so for example, this one is exactly the same model as in the kit. This is a ready-to-run one by Farish. It doesn't have the same level of detail as in the chassis. Will be different because this uses just a standard Pico chassis. But this is costing sort of £17, maybe £15. So you're saving quite a bit, and that's for one vehicle, I bear in mind. This is for 2, and this comes with a plywood and a plank version. So that's pretty good when you think about it. And there's several different variations, which I will show you as well, that you can make out of these. So it's pretty good value for money. So right, what we're going to do now is I'm just going to take this all out, and we'll have a look what is in the kit. Okay, so everything is out now, and let's show you what we've got in the kit. So first of all, we've got the instructions here, which are fairly straightforward. Just folds out, gives a few prototype notes, first of all, and then open out again. And this is the actual proper instructions for the chassis, and also for it all. It just folds out very nicely. I've built these quite a few. There's painting notes in here. There's things of how to use the actual for the actual instructions as well. Yeah, generally pretty good. So that's what's there. There's a few notes as well for it and getting started and things like that. So useful instructions. There isn't any pictures in it, I would like to say, which doesn't help for someone who's built it for the first time. This is kind of a reason to do this. It helps you show how to do it. So what else have we got? We've got 2 chassis. These are just a standard Pico chassis. These kits, I'm not sure that this is one. I'm not sure if Pico have upgraded these kits now, because I know they're starting to do metal tired wheels. These are plastic wheels, and these just literally consist of one piece. Well, I'll show you those in a bit when we actually start doing it. But you get 2 of those, so that's useful because 2 vans. We then have a bag full of turned metal brass turn brass buffer heads. These will go in the sides. I don't know if you can see that. There they are. Fairly fiddly to put in, but they fit and they look pretty good once they're done, once they're in as well. And these are fairly, you may think, why have we got these when we've got the chassis, but we'll explain it all when we go through. And then we've got two sides. We've got two of these. Now these have one per side of each of the vans. We have two types of vans here. We have the planked version and we have a plywood version. You also will notice there are four, they also have a roof and a floor. You also notice we have four ends. Now, these vans, great, no, there you go. I was thinking it wasn't going to. Notice there are two different types of ends, and the two different types of ends are also we've got the vacuum brake pipes and the vacuum cylinder as well, and we've also got some labels for fruit, which is where these ends come in. So these ends are for a standard version, sort of normal ventilated van, and then we have a fruit van. Now these are pretty useful because the two different types of fruit van used the same sides. So literally the ends were the only thing that was different. So that's pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll build both of these. Now the thing is that also with the fruit vans is that some of these fruit vans, actually both of the fruit vans, they did have vents fitted. Now the kit does not include vents for the fruit vans. What it does include though is, if you look on the bottom here, I don't know if you can see that, where the light's reflecting on this, hopefully you can. I think you can see that there. You can see there's different holes here. These are blind holes for you to drill through to install the vents. Vents are available from different manufacturers. I think I bought some before. I'm not going to build fruit vans this time. So these are for, I think I found mine of Langley Miniature Models produced some. Their torpedo vents is the ones you would need if you want to make this kit. So that's a nice little useful thing for you. One thing is to note is that for the planked version of a fruit van, they are slightly offset from each other. When a plywood van, they're all symmetrical and in line, like a domino. It is also to note that some of the fruit vans later had these vents removed. So you can actually model the fruit vans with these, but that's probably more into the BR era. If you're modeling LNER vans, then it's more likely that you will have the vents. So that's something to bear in mind if you're going to model this. So without further ado, let's get onto this. Now the first part, so there's two sides of these. First thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to focus on the chassis. So we're going to pull all this stuff out of the way and get everything out of the chassis box, one of the chassis boxes, and we'll show you how that's done. Okay, so here's the chassis. The chassis itself is literally just one piece of plastic. Fairly straightforward. You just got two coupling boxes, axle boxes, and then on the top we've got the locating lugs for the weight that can sit on top like that. That is just a moulding pip. It's nothing really. You can remove it if you want. They've also then got the two coupling hooks, torpedo couplers. These do not have NEM pockets, I'd like to point out. These are also for the couplers, so they can go on top. And they will slot in, and then you obviously put that in first, and then they slot in the top and work fine for that. The wheels, and then we've got the instructions, which are fairly generic instructions. You can see this one's for a brake van. And just show you how to put it together. It's fairly idiot-proof in some ways, this chassis. They're fairly straightforward to do. This is a steel 10-foot chassis, just for those who like to know. So something to point out is that the chassis is not going to be fully prototypical. If you look at that, that is the Pico chassis. We have the axles here, and then we have the brake shoes in line with the wheels, and just a standard frame on the outside, and the standard brake lever. These vans did have a fairly offset, I think it was Moulton braking, I think it was what they were called. They have 8 brake shoes as well. that are usually fitted in line with the wheels. So that's for these ones. That's the prototypical one. If you wanted to do that, you probably have to go try and. I don't know if there's a kit or anything for a prototypical chassis, but that's mainly for that one. But this is what we're going to go with. I'm not going to try and modify this. I think this is pretty okay. To be honest, when they're flying along, you hardly seem to notice whether you're not really looking at the chassis, to be perfectly honest, in my view. I know some purists will probably want to correct me on that, but there you go. So in order to build the kit, what we need to do is, apart from we get that box out of the way, first thing we need to do is we need to modify the chassis. Now, if you noticed on here, if I show you this, to show you back on this part, where we've got these ends, you can see that these include a buffer beam, which is why we have the brass buffer heads. So they slot into there and then are glued. Fairly straightforward thing to do. But in order for that to happen, because these actually have to sit, so if I show you like that, there is just there, I hope, on the end of the buffer beam, you've got impression of the end of the frame. And the frame itself is here. So there we go. And that's the end of the frame there. So what we need to do is we need to actually remove the buffer beam completely. This is fairly straightforward because if you can see here, if I try and show you with the actual knife, hopefully it will pick it up. You have the buffer beam itself, and then there's a slight indent. This is not focusing at all. This is a problem not having a macro setting. So if you can see there's a small indent. I'll use that actually because that's a white background. See, there is an indent onto the buffer beam, where the buffer is. So what I'm going to do is very simply just use a pair of plastic cutters just to cut all 4 of these buffers off. Yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do. File it down and we'll have a nice flat flush buffer beam. So I'm just going to now go and do that. So very simply, all I'm doing is just this. You just get the cutters, put it in line with the other parts of these might come in useful. So put it in line with that, just like that, and then just very simply just cutting it off. As you can see, remove the buffer beam, remove the buffer, and we have a nice flush surface, reasonably flush surface, and then we can just file that down very slightly, and that'll be a good surface to start from. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to do that for the rest of the chassis now. Okay, I just put this piece of white paper, but I put the instructions here behind just so you can get a better view of this. So that's the chassis. I've gone slightly a bit too much on filing on this side, which is rather annoying. But that's basically the chassis ready for the actual building the kit, which is really weird when you think about it. Is it literally is a very small modification. There is one other thing we can do, is so the P here of Pico, which you probably can't see on here, but there's a P here, trust me. That is going to be where do we put the where we would put the vacuum cylinder. Now, these vans can be made into 3 different variants, well, technically 4 different variants actually. So the Monty Python vans, because we have you can have a fitted ventilated van, you can have an unfitted ventilated van for both of the plywood and the plank versions. Then there's also the fruit van, and then technically you can have the fruit van without the vents. So each type of van, there's 4 different variants. So that's where you would put the vacuum cylinder, but these 2 vans I'm going to be making right now are going to be unfitted vans. So we're not going to have a vacuum cylinder here. You also may want to check some prototype information. Sometimes some vans actually only had 1 set of brake gear, 1 per side, not per side. Obviously there's 1 set of brake gear per side, 1 set of brake gear per wagon. Some Great Western vans had that, so it's worth checking up on. I'll show you a book later that I've been using to help get good information on these wagons. But I'll put a link in the description for that as well. So next stage for these ones will be the couplings. Now, it may sound really strange. Now, one thing I would point out is that the floors on these wagons do have the nodules ready for the actual for the couplings. So if you can see, they're very similar to this. Something I have found personally, and something I am trying with this on a just as a first time for this one. I'm not going to actually put the floor in. I have been finding these have been causing a few issues with coupling heights. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to, okay, so that's going to fail with that. I'm going to actually use these. And what I'm going to do is that you can see here, it's in sort of like there's a lump. There's a lump and there's sort of like quite a large bit of plastic around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this part of plastic here up against the lump. We're going to cut that off. And then we're going to glue that down just using the end pieces with the coupling inside it. It's worth to note when you do this, make sure you don't get glue on this square piece itself, especially the bottom part, because it can actually glue the coupling hook in, which obviously isn't going to be good. So we're just going to do that, and yeah, so I'll show you actually with this one just how I'm going to do it. It's just very, very simple. We'll cut away this section of plastic, just a useless bit now, so we get rid of that, put it in the waste pile. Drop that one off, and we're just going to get this. I literally just put it right next to that, so I don't know if you can see that. So it's right butt up against the actual part there, and just very simply snap. There it goes. And then if you can see it here, I'm trying to see if I can get a good close up. It is literally just that piece left, so that should sit nice and freely inside there and be free of the weight as well. So are we ready for it? So that's quite good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other one, and then we'll get those in and we'll show you so you can see what it's like when it's done. So what I'm doing is I'll show you just quickly with the glue. I'm using just Humbrol poly cement. Very, very simple. Little blob. Oh, probably more than a little blob actually. So I'll dip one in. I'm going to dip the other one in as well, just to try and just get it out of the way. So coupling hooks in. Glue's probably gone off already. Very, very simply push it in while it sticks to your hand. So there you go, nicely glued in there. You thought I'd use something like tweezers for this, wouldn't you? There we go. So that's in. So they're nice and sitting there very nicely at the moment. So let's place that down there. Now what we're going to do also is I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on here for the weight. So that's going to go on as well. Let's get that little press down. It's kind of weird actually. I know I should be using something like a super glue for that, but I have found that these do actually work for metal as well. So that's the chassis basically done, and we can now move on to something. We can now move on to the actual van itself. Right, so we've got the sides now. So we're working on the actual van body itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the planked one. Don't know what's going on outside. I'm sorry if you've heard that. A weird screen. So we're going to just cut out both of the sides now. So that's the sides. So that's one of the sides. Simple planking. There's a rivet on one side. We'll do it for the other side as well. So these sides are just basically, you need them for all. Need them for all of them. Obviously the ends, which are not cooperating. Let's bring in a knife that is. There we go. So one thing I will point out actually, while I'm just cutting these out, NGS Society kits. These obviously are for like LNER and late BR modelers. Obviously these wagons probably continued up in service and departmental stuff for up until the 70s, 80s maybe. It's worth noting that they don't just do kits like this for steam era modelers, and they're not just focusing on them. There are kits available in other things. They used to do a kit of an auto baluster. They used to do a kit for a because some of the kits are discontinued. They have discontinued some of them. They used to do a standard mineral wagon that got discontinued. A few others that got discontinued as well. They do a kit of a sea cow, which is quite useful for modern era modelers. So that's quite a useful one for it. So what we're going to do now is just give these a little clean up, and then we can get on them and finish off these as well. Okay, so next phase we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start working on the actual construction of the body itself. So we've got the chassis all nice and ready, and the body's all cut out and ready to go. We've trimmed off all the excess flash. One thing we really need to do is we need to remove drill out these holes a little bit more. I've got a 0.5 millimeter drill bit in this little pin vise, and all we're just going to do is just very gently twist it in and just drill that out. And you can see there's a little bit of flash coming out there, so that's nice and it's working. It's just one of the things I've found is that I know other modelers probably found this as well. When you're using these sort of like these parts, especially when you're trying to glue like some brass bits into these, it really does just, it doesn't work very well when you've got it just sort of, the molding seems to sort of, it doesn't help the drill bit, not the drill bit, the actual part going in. I'm not 100%, well, I know why, because it's just not going to work otherwise. The mold is only finite, small. But let's just get these bits done. Okay, so there we go. So there's all those drilled out nicely. So what we're going to do first is that before we glue the rest of the chassis in, before we're going to glue it to the chassis, so we're going to attach it like this. Just like so. Now I'm starting to work out as to why might actually need to glue the side on first. It's the first time I've tried it actually without using the floor. So I'm just trying to work this out a little bit. I wonder if it'll work better actually if I glue this side on first to the actual end. Anyway, we'll work that out as we get there. But first thing we need to do is put these buffers on. So we'll do that now. I have to do it on the actual cutting mat. See if we can get this folded the other way, and then that might actually give things a little bit better. There we go. Right, hopefully that means you can actually see this now. So we're going to get some of these buffers out. So we need 4 buffers. See, should be 8 in here. So it's going to take 4 out. Place them on the paper. 1 more. There we go. So put them back in there for safekeeping before I get to the other one. So there we go, four little parts there. We're going to get some tweezers as well, if I can find where I put them. There we go. All we're just going to do is that I'll try and pull it up and zoom it, get it to zoom in. I'm not sure how well this is going to work though. I'm just going to put a very fine blob on. So I'll just do that for the start. And then we're just going to get one of the buffers. Just very, very gently. On, and then just push down on it. As you can see, it's gone in quite nicely there. Almost like I knew what I was doing. It's kind of amazing because I have a feeling this never usually works like this. Why it's going to work now, I don't know. But anyway, oh, that was a bit too much, I think. Oh well. There we go. There's the buffers on. So now we've got to do is just do the other side as well, just to prove this wasn't a fluke. Doesn't need a huge amount of glue, that's why I'm just letting it bubble like that. Don't mind it bubbling actually, because it just gives it a little bit extra. It just doesn't need a huge amount of glue, that's the thing. The way this glue works as well, it melts plastic, so melting the plastic with the brass there, it just kind of it just works. Oh, I've had no problems with these. These don't really get much bashing around anyway. That's what the coupling is for. Come on. There we go. That one's gone in now. So there we go, we've got 2 ends done. So the thing I might try and do actually is just make an L shape with these. So we've got both sides like this. I'm just going to run a wee blob of glue on there. Very, very tiny little bead just on that edge. I don't know if you can see that. Then making sure it's the correct way up, which is kind of useful with the fact that the roof is there. Just going to attach the edges together like so. It also helps as a very tiny little lip on that surface, so that's very, very useful. Hopefully I didn't get too much glue on there. So that's one side with that. We're just going to let that dry a little bit there, like that. I can't do it the other way because obviously it's not going to work. So let's work out which way it's going to be there. So it needs to be this one, and we need to do this side. So again, we're just going to run a small bead, not too much there. Very gentle. Can wipe some of that excess off as well. Other glue I've used actually for this, which is excellent, is something like Plastic Magic. That is really, really good. It really is amazing. I just need to get a tissue quickly just to wipe some of the excess off of that. Very tiny little blobs there. I don't know if you can see it, the camera's picking that up, but there's a few blobs there. Just get rid of that, because otherwise it's going to melt the plastic in the wrong way and in the wrong place. There's a few details, molded details on there, like door jambs. Oh, it's not actually in the camera. That was good then, wasn't it? Did do it once where I actually got a massive blob of glue on the roof of one of these. So that's the two sides there done. Don't know if you can see that very well. So that's those two sides done. Then we just need to let them dry a little bit, and then I'm going to try and attempt them to glue them to this. So while that's doing that, I've been working on the other side, another chassis. So I'm just going to quickly finish the plywood version of the same van, and yeah, very quickly we'll get back to that. We'll get back to this one and finish that off. So you'll see the other plywood one just sitting here ready to go as well. Okay, so we'll do both of those together. Okay, so we're back. I've managed to get the plywood sides done, so they're ready to go as well. So we've got both the chassis ready down here at the bottom. So we need to just build these kits up now. I'm still trying to work out whether to actually just glue them in one at a time. Doesn't just glue the sides together and then actually attach it to the chassis. Might actually do that. So I just need to make sure I've got the right sides with the right ends together. I think that's what we're going to do. We're just going to give this very, very thin bead of glue again, just to get them up into 4. So I've actually got a box. Just check that end. So that end's good. Check the other end. That end's good too. Make sure I'm not touching any of it with the glue. So just sort of a prototypical information with these vehicles. They were built unbraked and brake versions of both the plywood and the planked. A variation you could do is that they had exactly the same body sides and body framing. There was some made of matchboarding, which would mean individually scribing. So I would suggest with that one, they do have a different door to the plywood sides. So that would mean you have to score down the edges of each of these planks to do it. The door is slightly different. It looks sort of like a halfway house between this and the planked version. Just a plain open door. I'll show you in a bit when I get where I got all the information for this. It's also worth mentioning that the vacuum that they were built, the braked version, all the brake versions, unbraked versions of this van were fitted with vacuum brakes by BR. So that's a point worth mentioning as well, is that some of these vehicles were built in one way and then they were converted to built as unbraked and then converted to vacuum braking. So, because it was part of the modernisation plan, to make sure all vehicles, like vans, were braked, because they were trying to move away from unbraked trains. So these general merchandise vehicles were put into that bracket. So that's gone in okay, that end. This end, just move out slightly. Which means this end has just moved out slightly. Holding, but that looks pretty good. Okay, so that's both the sides, that's both the vans in a box shape. Just going to let that dry for a second. I'm just going to cut the roofs out. It's interesting as well with the English Society, some of their kits, they have they can be used in different ways. So you can mix and match these kits and kit bash them together into different versions. Another version that is quite a useful one to do, another thing which is quite good, is that some kits you can actually create a third kit out of them. One of the biggest of these is the southern one, which has effectively 3. It has the uneven plank, the plank, and the plywood. So if you literally just buy another chassis, you can literally make all three, which is what I did before. They actually do say that in the on the website, I think. Another version of the kit is some of the kits are useful for making longer or shorter versions for kit bashing. So they're quite useful. What was the other one I was going to say? There is another one. I found a way of getting a third kit out of the BR shock vehicles. If you buy a BR standard van, which comes with ends for a standard and meat vans, which is also a twin pack, you can if you buy a separate chassis. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the glue out on this. So if you buy a third chassis for the kit, or a third Pico chassis, you can get a planked and a plywood shock van, as well as the shock open that comes with the kit as well. It's a twin pack, which basically has you can either make the shock open or the shock. I think it's slightly sealed up over the end of it. Which means this is probably going to explode. I think it's the temperature today. It's quite a warm day today, so I think everything is drying so fast. So that's one end. I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the other. And hopefully this will slot into it. There we go. Just give that little squeeze. And that's the van. That's the side to it. So that's one. And we'll just do the same again for the plywood. So as unfitted vehicles, these would be grey. And the BR, LNER as well, I think had grey vehicles for unbraked, which is handbraked only for those of you who are new and don't really know what the difference is between braked and unbraked vehicles. There were braked vehicles, they would be in bauxite, which I think was a colour that was actually used for both the LNER and the and BR. So that's quite a useful one for everyone. And let's just quickly. So the roof, let me add this on. It should be roughly in line with these sections here. So we should make sure it's roughly in line there, like that. That's a little bit further over, like that. So that's good. So that is just about perfect with that roof. Now the framing is all black, so the vacuum brake box will be painted black. The body itself will be painted grey, a light grey, and then we'd paint the actual roof itself a dark grey. Although, to be honest, these roofs could be anything from dark grey to black, due to the fact that they were roofs. They were canvas roofs, so you can try and find some way of replicating the canvas. That's another option. But mainly, that is that. Make sure the roof is nicely aligned. But that's that. That's the vans. That's 2 LNER vans. And that's the kit, basically. Fruit vans would be exactly the same, but just to the fruit on the fruit sides. So what you would do if this was a fruit van, one, it would have the different end. You then fit a label, one of the labels on there, which has fruit on it. These vans, the plywood fruit vans, had an extra label here, chalk marking, I think, on here. These were later removed. So that's an extra vent for that one that would also still have the label, the fruit label here, which is mounted about 3/4 of the way down the side. So on a plank version, it's about in the middle of this section here, sort of height-wise. Other options we can have is the vacuum braking. So as I said, the cylinder would go over this pico, the P in pico, and then there's a line on the chassis here. If you can just see it there. So in line with that, you would put the vacuum brake hose on each end, which is glued on. And then, yeah, that can be painted up as well. So these buffer beams are painted black, and the frame is all painted black as well. The body side for these ones will be grey, dark grey for the roof. The dark grey for the roof is for whether it's black, not black, whether it's unfitted or fitted, so it's the same colour, really. But yeah, so that's what that is, what it looks like. That's what the plank version looks like alongside its ready to run cousin. Obviously some details different, but overall pretty good. And also the fact is this is a lot cheaper and you get an extra one. And the plywood van is not produced and ready to run. Just to point out, that is a non-ready to, you can only get that in the kit. So thank you so much. I don't know why that's zooming in like that. So thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope this has been informative for you. If you are looking at trying to be a member of the NGS Society, I would recommend it. If you're also trying to look at some of their other kits, also I would recommend that as well. These kits are brilliant. I will try some other kits as well, gradually over the time period, and do a few of those intermixed with my normal episodes of the stuff, work on the layout, just to help people sort of see how easy these kits are and how good they are to run, to build, and how quick they are. Literally in this video we have built 2 vans, so you know it's very, very easy, very quick. Painting these up is not going to take a huge amount of time either. You might need a couple of coats, but hey, it's not long at all. So I would strongly recommend it. It's a great thing to do, great for a little evening as well, a little evening project. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as I said before, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.